Okay, here's a tutorial how to fit fog lights, daylight running lights and indicators to the existing fog light spaces in a Nissan Elgrand E51. Here are some of the tools you'll need. I'll remember the rest as we go through. So a grinder, that'll become apparent in a moment, pliers, WD-40, trim removal tool and a sharp knife. That's a Nipex knife, but a Stanley knife I think would do, and a small socket set. The clip to hold the surround on is at the back, so to take it off use this plastic. This is a trim removal tool, but some sort of plastic. Just pop it like that, and it should just lift out like that, and that leaves you 4 bolts, 1, 2 and 2 at the other side. Now a big cautionary is that these will snap, so what I do is give them a right good lube with WD-40. The plastics in these cars are 20 odd years old, so it's unlikely you're going to get them out without any hassle. So give it a good lube with WD-40 and leave it soak in to make them easier to come out. After about 5 minutes, 10mm socket and a wee extension, and take them out. They're very stiff. Take out 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's one that I did earlier, and as you can see, the top mount has snapped off because the plastic becomes brittle over a period of time. Once you've got the 4 bolts out, the light lifts out. To release the fog light, it's hard to do it with one hand. You lift that up and it just should pop out like 2 secs, like that. And that's your fog light, original. What I would recommend doing at this stage is cleaning up all the WD-40 that's spilled. It just makes everything easier to work with so your hands aren't as slimy. Give it a good clean in your hole. I can do more later on. So the next problem we've got, and the biggest problem, is that there's the back of the original fog light, and these are the new fog lights. They're about £37 from eBay or Amazon, and it's got the LED fog lights with a halo ring, white, and when you put the indicators on it flashes yellow, as in another video. The problem is that the tabs have got these gussets on them, and to make it fit flush in here, these tabs have not got gussets on them. So we need to use the grinder to grind off all those gussets on every tab. Just like that. These bits of plastic just snap off. It's just the heat generates them. And that's the first stage of getting the light ready to fit. The first stage of butchery, let's just say. Okay, now the next problem we've got is in here. We've got this ledge and there's one at the top here. These need to be taken out, and the best way I found to do that is by using a sharp knife such as this, and basically just cut them away like that. And as you can see, it's quite easy to cut. I'll get on with that and I'll come back once I've done it. Another thing you've got to watch, that's them done. The other thing that's worth mentioning is it's good to take these off before you start, because if they drop inside there, they're a bugger to get out. So as you can see, the ledges are away. Next thing that I would recommend doing is cutting the edges off the tabs. So, I don't know if you can see, these edges off the 4 tabs, there's 2 there and there's 2 in there. Cut them off like that. So when you offer up the light, we need to cut the bottom of that tab off, the top of that tab off, the bottom of that tab off, and the top of that tab off, but just cut wee bits at a time, because the holes that are in this light don't actually line up, but we'll drill those out later. So you need to kind of modify these tabs at the top, all of them. I'll do that with a grinder. And the light fits in like that. Now I don't know if you can see, but the holes do not line up with the tabs. By the way, there's a top and a bottom to the lights. The top's got a mark, I don't know if you can see it, there's a market there at the top. So, next stage is we've got to re-drill these holes, and to be quite honest, I've only ever managed to get 2 bolts in to hold these securely. So I've got a drill, and I'm going to just drill these holes a bit wider to get into the hole. I don't know if you can see them properly. To fit the bolts in the hole. I've drilled the holes wider on the fog light. So next part's wiring. So with the kit you get that, and I use, I think they're called T-clamps. They're for a single wire, like a Scotch lock. They clamp on, and that's a spade connector at the other side, and they're brilliant for fastening things. These come in different sizes. The red are the smallest, which are the best for car wiring, but they go up to yellow ones, which are quite thick. I'm not very good with the gauges of wire, but you get the idea. So I'm going to put the positive and negative. Negative's black, positive's the blue and the orange in this case. One in each of these. I'm going to peel this back a wee bit. One in each of these, and then a spade connector on the connector for the fog lights, and plug it in, and hopefully it should work. Right, so that's the clamps on there, and the spade connectors slip in there. The wire that came with it, I've fitted spade connectors on, so I'm just going to plug it in like so. And what I would recommend at this stage is you plug your light in and test the fog light to see if it works. And the fog light works. So now I'm going to show you how to wire in the indicator and the side light. Okay, for the wiring for the indicator and the side light, I bought these plugs from Amazon. I think a box of them was like a box of 50 or 60s, £6, and I've wired these in. Yellow is the indicator, white is the permanent side light. I've put a plug on this cable, which I got from B&Q. No, I didn't. I got from Wix. It's a lot cheaper than buying it over the internet, and it's readily available. So I'll show you how to wire that in. We'll plug it in, make sure everything works, and then we'll put the light into the housing. Okay, so dropping the cable down is a pain, big time. But if you look down there, you can actually see a gap, and you can see your light coming from the fog light hole. I don't know if you can actually see it. Down in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop the cable down and try and catch it in the fog light hole. This is your indicator here. And again, there's 2 wires. There's the blue and the black. And we're going to use these T-clamps to clamp onto here as well. And that's your indicator power supply. Okay, so you've got the cable there. We're on the inside. Piece of advice: secure it so you don't pull it off when you're pulling that side, or you've got to start again, and it is a pain. So I'm going to put the clamp in there and plug that into the clamp, and then test the indicator. Okay, in this case the blue is going to the indicator, and down here blue is going to yellow. So it's worth mentioning that you actually need to have both wires plugged in, because the earth of your fog light also what's the earth of your indicator and the halo running light. So and how to test it is switch on your hazards, and miracle of miracles, it's working. So I'm going to put the light back in here with the newly enlarged holes and secure it in place. I put a piece of tape just over the end of that, probably because I'm anal. Okay, put the light back in. These are captive nuts. The bolt goes in the back and slides on like that. And then you offer up your light, making sure the writing's at the top. Right, you can't see it, but the writing's there. And make sure that everything's tucked in. And you must have this pushed back as far as it'll go. I can't do it with one hand. Or the lights around won't clip in properly. And if that pops out and you lose it, they're like hen's teeth. So I'm going to put that in and put the bolts in, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, as I've said, I've only ever managed to get 2 bolts in. The holes just don't line up, but that is really secure. But make sure that your tabs are flush against the mounting plate at the very back, or your cover will not fit in properly. So the next thing to do is make sure there's no debris round about here, because again that'll stop your trim clip from clipping in properly. Take your trim clip and that clip there goes in that hole in there. So put that in first, and then gently, and make sure it's nice and secure. Done. I'll talk you through wiring the halo light in a wee second, but that's basically how to install them, and it's the same on the other side exactly. Okay, for the halo lights, this is my car. One wire connected one of these T-pieces onto the feed from the fog light, and I've got it wired right along the front. And this one, very untidily, because I've not put it in properly, goes down there, and the only place I can find without drilling holes is in the cab here. Put the trim back, under here, and it actually goes into fuse 15, which is in here. I've got a fog light wired in, so I just tapped into the ignition feed from the fog light. So my ones are wired, when you turn the ignition on, they come on. And I'm going to do the black Elgrand that's done is exactly the same.